Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to today's Word on Fire. And I'm here with one of my bootleg sisters. I got another one on the way, but I'm so glad to have Anita with me today. And I tell y'all what, this some of the best bootlegging you ever. Listen, the bootleg liquor is better than the regular.
No, 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 no.
Yes, yes, these are not drunk as you suppose, but this is that. And I tell you what, this word is on fire. And
Yes,
we're glad to have you today. Joanna, you're always a blessing. Thank you for joining us on
yes,
today. And I see
honey.
some others out there that are not in chat. I definitely want to welcome you to come on in chat. Come on in the room if you want to come. We'll be happy to have you join us on this fine day. Now, today I am actually going to try. This is going to be experiment, y'all. So we're going to actually try to give you a chance for those that would like to call in and ask the panel a question, myself and the bootleg sisters. And I'm going to ask you to keep it relative to the teaching that we're doing on today, or if you have a comment that you want to share. That number right there, 816-688-8485. Again, that number is, oh, I got a caller already. Let's see if let's let's see. Can you hear me?
Anita,
Can can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Anita, can you hear the caller?
Yes, I can hear the caller.
Can you hear me, mother?
We
Miss
hear you, baby. We hear you, baby. We know you still a little
Missionary,
sleepy.
She said mention it.
international, inter-
Well, come on, give her a title. Come on and give her a title.
No, I don't need no
international
title.
mother of the state supervisors and such.
I
And
don't need
such.
no title, child. Because
Yes.
them titles got to pay reports. I don't need no title.
All right. I think we're working.
I think we're working. I just wanted to test it out today. So listen, Rebel Inc., we appreciate you. We know that you're tired. You are tired and feathered. So
I read. Yes.
Tyred, you are tired. So thank you so much for testing us out today. And if you have a question later on, call us right on back. I appreciate your help.
I sure
Yes, you
will.
do.
All right. Thank you,
Oh,
ma'am.
all right.
All right. Bye-bye.
She sound good to be tired.
Yeah, she sounds real good for being tired, but that's all right, honey. She's young. She's still youthful. She can do a little bit of that. These
Yeah.
older folks, I'm talking about you.
I know. I know you're talking about me. I'm the oldest one on here right now. Shoot, child.
Listen, I'm telling you what. So I appreciate her for checking that out. So yes, it looks like we are in business. So if you have a question, there's the number right there, 816, or if you have a comment, 816-688-8485, and you got 60 seconds, 1 good minute to get your question in and ask what you want to ask, and we'll be happy to entertain your call on today. We're moving on up. We trying to get there a little bit at a time. But thanks be to God. That's your number, 816-688-8485, to call in and ask a question. Thank you so much again, the Rebel Inc. Now, today, we're going to head on with the complete sayings of Jesus in our Word on Fire discussion this afternoon. I want to pull that up so we can get going with the word. We are on chapter 20. Chapter 20 for those of you that are watching. True, Joanna, I'm gonna stop and say what's true. I hope you're not saying that we old. No, I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing with you. Hey Sheila, good interaction. So you definitely can call in. I know you were having some phone problems there, but you can definitely call in. There's that number, 816-688-8485. Take it down because it'll work for you here and it'll work for you on our other platforms as well. Now, we want to get to the Word of God, chapter 20, from the complete sayings of Jesus. Today we're going to talk about the 12 by name, the sermon in the plain, Benisons, and Benisons mean blessings. So, some of you, it's just a different way of saying it. I always love to increase vocabulary. And y'all know old school. This book actually is a very, very old book. I got it from my father's collection when he's had this book ever since I can remember. And it was one of the blessings that I came into when I was blessed to have his library. And so Benisons, sometimes they use words back then that we don't use anymore, but Benisons are nothing more than blessings. Benisons and admonitions, precepts, the golden rule again, and judge not. And the last concept that we're going to deal with on today is to give. So we're going to look at that one more time. The 12 by name, the sermon in the plain. We're also going to be dealing with the Benisons and admonitions, precepts, the golden rule, and judge not. And finally, to give. We are in the year around AD 28. Jesus at the age of 31, and we are near Capernaum. We are near Capernaum. And again, that's his headquarters. We're coming from the scriptures. We'll be looking at these. Matthew, Matthew 10, verses 2 through 4, Mark 3, 16 through 19, and Luke 6, 14 through 38. We'll read that again. Matthew 10, 2 to 4, Mark 3, 16 to 19, and Luke 6, 14 to 38. And I'll just read the scripture through, and you can read along with me if you like. In those days, Jesus went out into a mountain and continued all night in prayer to God. When it was day, he called into his 12 disciples. Now, the names of the 12 apostles are these: Simon, whom he also surnamed Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thomas, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Jude, Philip, Bartholomew, which is also Nathaniel, and Matthew the publican, who's also surnamed Levi, and Simon called Zelotes the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also was the traitor and betrayed Jesus. Jesus came down with them and stood in the plain, and the company of the disciples stood with him. A multitude of people out of all Judea and Jerusalem and from the sea coast of Tyre and Sidon came to hear him and to be healed. Jesus lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, "Blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are ye that hunger now, for you shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh. Blessed are ye when men shall have you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil, for the Son of Man's sake. Before ye in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. For in like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. But woe unto you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you, bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you. And unto them that smiteth thee on the one cheek, offer also the other. And him that taketh away thy cloak, forbid not to take thy coat also. Give to every man that asketh of thee. And of him that taketh away thy goods, ask them not again. And as ye would that men would so do unto you, do ye likewise unto them. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. And if you do good to them which do good to you, what thank have you? For sinners also do even the same. And if ye lend to them of whom ye hope to receive, what thank have ye? For sinners also lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest, For he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet withal, it shall be measured to you again. And the people of the Lord said, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Again, we're going back to the concept of what our teachings are today. We have the sermon in the plain, and then he begins to talk about the blessings, and then begins to give the disciples precepts and ideas, the golden rule, definitely, and judge not. And finally, he closes out with giving. Now, as we go into this teaching on today, we see all of the disciples being named here, sis, and we look at each one of them individually. Many of them have surnames and other names that they go by. And so even for those that understand that Thomas Didymus, he's a twin. There are certain things about the names that identify and give us other little tidbits of information that we can add on to it. Now, I love that Jesus called Peter the rock. And I think that there is something that's very profound. Jesus has the 12, but then he also has those three intimate. And I think sometimes if we stop and look at it, you can have those that are in the broader perspective of your relationships at any level, not just, well, I'm gonna say spiritually, because to me, I'm coming into a point, and you and I had this conversation on last week, how spirituality is really expanding over to everything. It's not just one little area over here, but it's like as we come back to who God created us to be, we're finding that more and more we are spiritual in all areas. And so in our spiritual circle, do you find that you have those in the broader, which would also include Judas Iscariot was in that number, the broader 12, and then you had Peter, James, and John. How do you feel like number one, he's calling these disciples, he's letting them know some guidelines and ideas that are really, really pertinent. I think just taking this whole chapter and all of this, the 22nd chapter that I'm sorry, the 20th chapter that we're looking at in the complete saying of Jesus, let's take it all the way across the board. Do you think that we also have a broader circle that will also include a Judas Iscariot, and then inner circle? How do you think those two things play together?
Well, first of all, Judas was a follower, but he wasn't in the inner circle. Because now Jesus knew from the beginning, come on, we're going to go, because he was an asset to the movement.
Yes.
However, sometimes when that fire got real hot, Judas had to kind of fall out. And sometimes you kind of know some people what their capacities are. And so that's why you pray for them so they can go on and get at least accomplish what you know they can accomplish. And hopefully with that will give them some encouragement to know, hey, at least they made it this far. So that's how I feel. Now, we all have, as far as anytime you're talking about a relationship, you're going to have those that you're closer to, that you're more intimate with, that you can really tell anything to, and it ain't going to be spread all over the continent. But
Right.
then you also have those that you can kind of talk to them, listen to them. And although you may share some of yourself with them, you're not going to be as vulnerable as you will with those that are right there in the circle.
That's good. And I kind of wanted to stop, and that may seem like a trivial point, but we're in the day of social media where people tell all of their business on the internet. I
Yeah.
mean, these babies, they just have diarrhea of the lips. They tell every tidbit, every detail. Their whole lives are out there on the internet. And then they wonder why, when things come in life, they are just sometimes blown away because I'm finding that, number one, let's take the reality, and we're dealing with 2020. There's no need in talking about what happened back in Jesus' day. We're in 2020. So
Mhm.
if we're talking about inner circle, outer circle, I think this is a place that we need to really, even with our children, begin to teach them to understand everybody's not in your inner circle. Everybody's not your three, Peter, James, and John. And you need to have a discerning and a discriminating understanding. And yes, they're followers. You hit the nail on the head. We're not kicking Judas Iscariot to the curb because he was a follower. But I do want to also identify this when we start talking about this concept. Jesus knew what Judas Iscariot was of, because Judas Iscariot, the Bible said, was the keeper of the purse, meaning that he held the money and he was already stealing. It was already
Mhm.
stealing. So it's like the character flaw that I'm going to say Judas Iscariot had, Jesus already knew. And we would wonder and be like, oh my goodness, how in the world Jesus, the Son of God, why would he ask Judas Iscariot to be the keeper of the purse? Listen, he already knew what spirit he was of. He already knew how he operated. He knew his heart. While man looks on the outward appearance, God knows the heart. I have to speak for myself personally. And if you want to submit, I know myself. I got some friends that are in the 12, and I know the ones that are going to lie. I know the ones that are going to cheat. Come on. I know the ones that, they're going to be just a
Mhm.
little bit crooked. Something's going to be, their crown's not quite straight. It's just, they wearing that crown kind of cocked to the side because
Yes. But the important thing about it is he still had a name. Jesus still recorded his name in the book.
Come
So
on.
sometimes the things that we want to count people out, even though we know they
Yes.
might be a little bit scandalous, but they
Yes.
still bring something to the table that can help you. And sometimes by you even allowing them into that circle, maybe not the inner circle, but they still in the circle, because a lot of these young folks, or I ain't gonna say young folks, but a lot of folks that's out there on the internet, and they telling every intimate little detail, that's because ain't nobody listening to them.
No,
And they
you
just crying out for somebody to listen. I'm hurting. I'm in pain. This is happening to me. Is anybody gonna say anything to me? Anything? So we need to be conscientious of that,
yes.
because that way, and we all know there's a Peter who's gonna fight for us no matter what, and
Come
we
on.
know we got that. We embrace them just as good. But Judas,
Hmm.
sometimes we tend to kind of be standoffish, and Jesus wasn't standoffish. He still put his name in. He still made sure his name was on record. So that's because he was still significant, and that's what we need to do. Make sure that we let everyone know that they are significant in the kingdom.
I think that's a beautiful, beautiful observation, and I think you're spot on. Listen, Joanna said, "Preach," and the Rebel Ink said, "Mother Supervisor is preaching," and y'all tell that. Listen, y'all here with my bootleg sisters. I'm telling you, the bootleggers. That stuff is good. That stuff that comes out of their steel is. That's why our name is Steel Man. STILL. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love. Hey, Weiss, glad to have you tonight. Today, I think you made a very good point that Jesus really identifies and represents in the 12 and the choosing of the 12. I have some of everybody in with me. I have some of everybody. And I think that this is a beautiful thing to identify. And as you kept stressing that point, even though yes, Judas Iscariot had some character flaws. He had some character flaws. But even with those character flaws, Jesus didn't diss him.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I'm one of those, and everybody doesn't have to believe like I believe, but I'm one of those that I believe when Jesus, after he was crucified and went down, the Bible said he went and preached to those souls that were captive in prison. People want to challenge me on that, but it's in the book. Go look it up. He preached to the souls that were captive in prison. I believe he went to hell. And those 3 days that he was in hell, I believe he preached to those souls, just like the Bible says, that were captive in prison. I look at that and I say, if I really one to take the hard line perception that church people love to believe. Oh, he took that 30 pieces of silver, threw it, and went out and hung himself. And he flashed his soul right on into hell. Well, if he flashed his soul right on into hell, I absolutely believe that when Jesus went and preached to those souls that were captive in prison, who do you think was the first one in hell saying, hey, Judas Iscariot? Because at the end of the day, I feel like, and thank you, Joanna, for hitting that. Jesus loved them all. He loved every last one of them. It's not a matter of you've got to be exactly, precisely my person and personality and character of perfection, and it's good.
It's good.
He loves everybody and he's not kicking anybody to the curb. And if we look at it, there's so many different dynamics of how each of those 12 represent something different in the group. And so I want us to really, really look at that. What does my group look like? What does your group look like? I want us to start looking in the face of the earth, in our world, and start really just take a look. Am I exclusionary? Come on with that, Joanna. Judas was sorry. He was sorry. And that's exactly why he threw the money back, trying to, this is a point of remorse. This is a point of grief and sorrow about the action that I've committed. And he was genuinely sorry. And I'm one of those, again, I'm going to say it again. I just don't believe that the God I serve and the Jesus heart that I believe he had was one that was like, man, you messed up, 3 strikes you out, goodbye. I don't espouse to that theology. Go ahead, sis.
I was just gonna say, and since his name was in the book, if Jesus found him in hell, I think that would have been mentioned. Now that's another part. The saints is good about putting folks in hell. They're gonna keep themselves out the fire, even though they've been dipping. But they're good about putting everybody else in hell.
Come
Let
on.
Jesus handle it.
Let
Let him handle it.
let
Child,
Jesus.
it's a 24/7 job for Anita to handle Anita.
No, you're right.
So, and I still got a husband, and I got children, and I got all these loved ones. But I ain't got no heaven or hell to put nobody in. And I'm praying and trying to keep Anita out of hell herself. So let Jesus handle it. And if Judas was down there, yeah, he had the chance to come up, and I'm sure he was first in the row. But I'm also thinking, that's why I'm just throwing this curve. If Jesus found him down in there because he was one of his 12 beloved that followed him, all he said was, just follow me. Who's willing to follow me? That
Come
was
on.
it. Then he would have mentioned, well, I came on and he came with me, but that ain't what it says in the Bible. So y'all better keep watching out trying to put folks in hell. Just let Jesus handle it.
I agree. I think that there's something twisted about current religion that somehow or another there's a pleasure and almost a joy out of the idea of people going to hell. There's almost a joy out of dooming people and damning them, just eternal damnation from here henceforth, even forevermore. And God's heart is so much more pure, first and foremost. He and even in that, well, that's why I say they got to be down there, because it's God, he knows our frame. And I'm not trying to, again, people, well, that's sloppy agape. You hear people that want to say that kind of terminology because they just really want people to go to hell. I mean, they just really want people to go to hell. And at the end of the day, I'm one of those that says, so many times you don't know how a person got to where they are, why they're doing the things that they're doing. And while we don't know that, man looks on the outward appearance and God knows the heart. And I say in every situation where man wants to judge harshly from what we believe we see, and sometimes your eyes see wrong because what you thought you saw was not even what you saw, but you'll bet your life on it as a reason to send them to hell. And even if it was what you saw, let's still get to the reality of it. I don't know what's going on in this individual's heart. I don't know what's going on in their life that has brought them to this point. I don't know what things may have them disillusioned about life and about situations and the choices that they're making. I don't know what happened to them when they were a child. And sometimes all of those different factors actually come into play when we look at a person's behavior, but people don't take that into consideration. They
Right.
just
Right.
automatically jump to a conclusion. And I think we've got to really take
Mhm.
one another to task. Number one, he goes on, he starts talking to the disciples. He starts telling them about the benisons or the blessings. And so after he calls them, and again, I love that the accounting, like you said, his name is in there. Jesus called his name. This
Mhm.
so when we get to it, he says, now he spent all night in prayer to God with them, and he tells his disciples, come with me. Then he takes them, he starts teaching. Jesus came down with them and stood in the plain. He goes out to this open area, and the company of the disciples are standing with him. And then all of a sudden, a multitude of people come out of Judea and Jerusalem and from the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon. And they all come to hear him. But also, I want you to pay attention. It said, and to be healed. Now,
Mhm.
I like to bring that point up because there's another passage of scripture that talks about some of the people that followed him. And notice him, as soon as he comes down from the mountain, throngs of people are coming to him because at this point, he's been performing miracles. He's been doing things that, oh my God, everybody, there's a man in the city and he's giving sight to the
Mhm.
blind. Come see a man that told me everything that I've done. They're absolutely fascinated with this man's power and the ability to work miracles. So now you got a group that's following you. Yes, some of them want to hear your teachings, but some folk just want to be healed. The Bible said there were those that were throngs that followed him that really just wanted the fishes and the loaves of bread. In other words, what can you do for me? You know, who was
Mhm.
Janet Jackson? What have you done for me lately?
Lately.
You know,
Mhm.
it's that sense that there are a lot of people, even if we talk about modern day Christianity, if we talk about, which I feel in a lot of ways has really been perverted because Christian coming specifically from the word Christ like, a lot of the things that we see manifesting now are really not Christ like. But if we
Mhm.
look at the reality, they're already thronging on him because they want to hear him teach, but they also want to be healed. So I'm coming with the need. There's really something that I want from you. And I think we have to really, in our spiritual journey, come to a point where it's okay to want to be healed, but I also want to hear the teachings and not just hear them, but do them. I want to hear, God, what is it that you want for Regina? What is it? How do you want me to act? How do you want me to interact? Like I said, let's start looking at our circles. Let's look at my 12. What does my 12 look like? Does everybody look just like me? Does everybody talk just like me? Does everybody quicken just like me? Does everybody think just like me? Because when you get into those kinds of scenarios, you really are on the verge of personality cults. Because I
Study.
should be, if I'm well balanced and I'm well rounded, I should be able to be around anybody. Now, that's my perspective. I'll let you jump in there and give me your perspective, even if it's different from mine.
Well, I agree. The people came from everywhere, but that's why all those people were not in the circle. But the thing, when they hear the good news, everybody wants to be around where there's some good stuff happening. And if it can benefit me, I want to get my benefit. That's fine. But they were not part of the circle. But the thing that Jesus still had them do is meet the needs of the people. You ain't got to be just right in my circle for me to help you. If
Come
I
on.
if I have the way to do it, then I'll do it. But the other thing is that that might be why Jesus called their name. So, and what I'm saying about that is sometimes we say, oh, yeah, I just love everybody. I love all God's children. All God's children. Call their name. Let them know that you love. Look, Regina,
Mm-hmm.
I love you. Sometimes people need to hear their name so they know, oh, she loves me. He loves me. That needs to don't just throw it all out there. Just throw it all out there. That's just like they saying, you know, they don't want you to talk about Black Lives Matter. Well, why just everybody matter? Who is in the need right now? And
Right.
right now, I just want my friends to know that they are close enough to me that I call their name and I call their name every time I get a chance because they are in my circle. Now, I don't leave everybody else out, but because you are that close to me, that's why I can call your name. Sometimes we need to be a little more personal, even with each other. Is all I'm saying. Is sometimes we woo, I'm a child of God. And as long as we go to the same church, as long as we go to the same kind of church, long as we have the same religion, whatever, whatever. But we need to come away from that because there are some of that that is not like me that I can still take back to the table and
Absolutely.
grow from it. Because if
Absolutely.
everybody is like Anita, it's a really hot mess. Because sometimes Anita's just a really hot mess. I just tell you. So that's why we need to be able to glean from everywhere. Everywhere we go from different people and listen to them because they got something to bring to the table.
I love that. I love the idea again of your point that you're driving, calling their name, which means it's not a herd mentality, but I genuinely have a direct personal relationship with you. I'm not just trying to say, "Oh, I love all God's children," but I love Anita. I love Weast. I love the Rebel Inc. I love Rashida. I love Joanna. And not just a matter of, oh, I can list off their names, but literally I have relationship that I'm developing so that
Mhm.
when when you have pain, I have pain. When you
Exactly.
cry, I cry. When you
Mhm.
rejoice, I rejoice. When you party, I party. I mean, there's actually relationship going on here, not just some out there in the pie by and by in the good old. No, actually having relationship with individuals so that we're connected. And I believe that we're supposed to have that horizontal connection to one another, and I think the horizontal connection that we have to one another really speaks to what kind of vertical connection we have with God. We really want to make it seem and sound as if, oh, my relationship vertically is so awesome and it's so wonderful and it's so powerful. But you have absolutely no horizontal relationship. There's something wrong with that. The Bible says, how can you say you love your father who you never seen and you hate your brother that you see every day? You hate your
Mhm.
sister that you see every day. So, and again, we're not trying to get into the place of judging any other than myself. I'm looking inward and saying, what does my 12 disciples look like? If I was to can I even come up with 12?
Say that. Now that's a message right there. Yep.
Some folk can't even come up with
Yeah,
12. I
that's
mean,
right.
and what is it? I feel like when we really have the love of God and we really flow in his love, it becomes attractive, it becomes a magnet, and it people are drawn to it. Sometimes they don't even know why they're drawn. Man, why do I keep calling Anita? Why do I keep, how come every time I see her something inside of me starts feeling happy? I can just see her and it just makes me, why? They don't even know why, but that magnetism of the love of God that doesn't come with ugliness and stank all over it, but just
Mhm.
genuinely, I have the love of God and I love you. Give me
Mhm.
my hug. I got people that say, I needed my need a hug.
Yep. I got them.
You do, you do. And it makes all the difference in the world because you know their name. And that's basically, I'm coming back to that point that you keep driving. It's not just some kind of external vocalization. Oh, we love everybody. But at the end of the day, some of the most hateful people in the world. That's why you don't even have 12. You can't even find 12. No,
Yep, yep,
you
you're
barely get
right.
one.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think these are some good points that you're bringing out, and I hope that people are grabbing hold of this because again, there's a reason why he names them even in the Bible, so that not just for posterity's sake to say these are the 12, but what is it really representing? And again, if we went back, I'm not going to do it today. If we went back and did a word study on each of those names, as well as if we got a little bit of the history from each one of those names. I could deal with Andrew because Andrew really deals with the Greek perspective. And so there is the reality that within that Jewish mix, there was also a Greek element that came into play, which is why they called him Andrew. They didn't choose a Jewish name. They didn't choose, they went with a Greek name. And here we see the convergence of, and Andrew is the brother of. So we look at the parents who are identifying, we're not going to throw our culture away. And I think we need to identify that in our spiritual journey away. Also, even by the disciples' names. Yes, Joanna, they had a personal relationship. I want us to recognize I don't have to throw my culture away. So I've got one that I'm going to name this, but I also have another that I'm going to name that, so that both sides of our culture are able to be seen within our family system. And I think so many times we want people to discard their culture. And I'll say that particularly for Christianity, a lot of times there is that sense of when there has been that evangelical concept of we're going to evangelize you, and you're going to stop being heathen, you're going to stop being pagan, and you're going to be the way we want you to be, and we start telling people throw your culture away. I think we need to pay attention to that also, and that's just my sentiment.
I agree.
So at the end of the day, we get these 12 disciples. Then he starts taking them down with the group and he begins to speak to the people. He lifted up his eyes on his disciples and he said this: blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be filled. Blessed are you that weep now, for ye shall laugh. Blessed are you when men shall have you, when they want to separate you from their company, and shall reproach you and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Before ye in that day leap for joy before it even gets here. Now even as I've touched on the cultural element and the cultural aspect, I want to say this particularly again. This goes all the way across the board to everyone. Particularly want to say to black bodies and the Black Lives Matter and the whole concept here. And again, there's a transition and there's a change that's happening. And I believe that ultimately the desire of God is that we would all be equal and that we would all be one. I believe
Mhm.
that with all my heart. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe in the unification of the spirit. I believe in the bringing together of the body of all people, of all races, of all denominations. I believe I can say this also to my Native American brothers and sisters who have so many times been the brunt of all types of negative behaviors. If we look at that and say, you're poor, yes, we've been that. You've had all of these different things. You've been hungry, yes, you've done that. You've had to weep. Yes, we've done that. Men have reviled you and separated you and said all kinds of negative evil about you falsely for my sake. Yes, we've had to endure that. But I also like to bring us to the point, and I'm bringing this on a cultural level, but it's all the way across the board. I'm not trying to make it specific too, but I definitely want to speak to my black brothers and sisters as a means of uplift. We can go ahead and leap for joy now. And that's what he says. But before it even gets here, I want you to leap for joy now because there's a day coming. And I genuinely believe that 2020 has been a year to set us up for the day that's coming. Not just our joy alone. I'm not trying to exclude anybody else from experiencing the joy, but I am saying, and I think I said this the other day in Sunday sermon, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And
Mhm.
so, for as hard as the weeping has been, as hard as this being separated and spoken against falsely for the sake of God, as hard as we've gone in the paint, in the negative, I also want to encourage us that we can have joy that the day that God is bringing to us, it's here. And I believe that with all of my heart. I believe that that time is here and our reward is great, not only in heaven, but I believe that there's a reward that we're going to receive right here in this earth, because they did this to the fathers that came before us. And so I want to speak that word of encouragement in 2020. Listen, I genuinely believe the day of unity and the day of coming together and the day of healing. And yes, we went out weeping and wailing, but we coming in with joy. That's my sentiment. And I'll let you say if you anything you want to share on that.
No, that's what I was gonna say. We didn't gotta wait till the good old by and by when we get to heaven before this all we get to enjoy what God has promised us. Because Uncle Lou used to play that song, These Are Days of Tribulation.
Yes.
However, we are going to reap before we even get to heaven. There's going to be some things to reap if we learn what this tribulation is taking us through, and if we bond closer together, especially as family.
Come
We've
on.
got to bond closer together. And sometimes I've heard people, everybody, all family ain't blood, but
Come
if
on.
you can bring that together and bond together so that the people can see some kind of unity, that will make a difference and we can enjoy.
Exactly, exactly. And you're talking about real unity and not a matter of lip service. And I feel like exactly. And I want to go back even to Mother Eve and the concept that we all came from Mother Africa. I believe that. I believe that from one we all are. And so even when we start saying we're not the same blood, but we really are. We really are. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. But at the same time, I'm saying if you drill that thing all the way down and drill that thing all the way back, we still came from one source. We
That's
still
right.
came from one. And I think that whatever it is over the span of centuries that has caused us to be delusional and lose the reality that we're still one blood, nobody's better than another one. It's whatever. Your tongue may be different, the language that you flow from may be different, and that's only because of location. I mean, it's the same in the United States. You can tell when you're talking to somebody from the East that come from Boston and they have that accent and they have that the way they talk. Then you can go down a little further in the South and you get that little twang. I mean, all of that is just a matter of a mere reality of where I was with a group of people at a given time by location. But at the same time, we all still the same. So whether it's language and tongue, whether it's skin color and melanin, how close am I from the equator? Do I need more melanin in my blood to survive and to be healthy and live? And by process of, as the body evolves and adjusts and does whatever it needs to do to match where I am. But at the end of the day, whether my melanin is light, whether my melanin is dark, it's still one blood. And I think until we really, really come back to the fullness of that truth and start operating in real unity, not just lip service, there's going to continue, to be what we've got going on right now. But I believe that the awakening has already started. I believe that there is a realization of who we are, and the appreciation for one another, and the embracing of one another. We may be different in certain things, but we're same in the things that really matter. And that's what I think, and that's what I really believe. But then he says, but woe unto them that are rich. I can really preach this to the United States right now. Woe to them that are rich, for you have received your consolation. Y'all been fighting for this money. Y'all been greedy for this money. You all have killed people for this money. You have mistreated people for this money. Just so you can be rich, you already got your consolation. And at the end of the day, there is no consolation in money in the reality of it. You may feel like it is, but listen, rich people are killing themselves every day. Rich people are looking and chasing their tails, trying to find happiness every day. And if the truth be told, some of the people that have wealth, money, and fame, if they could give it back, they would.
Right. They're miserable. That's right.
Misery. You
Mhm.
got your consolation, honey, because that green or whatever, if it's gold bullion or whatever, it ain't gonna keep you warm and it's not gonna keep you happy. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. And again, at the end of the day, because life is the same for everybody, money can't keep you happy. Money can't keep you when you're going through grief, when you're going through sorrow, when you're going through heartache, when you're going through things. And this is the unfortunate thing about it. People that are ugly and that act ugly towards other people, karma,
Yeah.
it's coming back to you.
Mhm.
And there have been times when I have seen, and I can remember from working at the funeral home, and I was working with a client, and the individual had money, but the individual had been so nasty, mean, and ugly to people. Child, people didn't care,
Mhm.
and I felt grieved. I felt grieved for the family because it was obvious that people were like, look, you treated us like dirt the whole time. And now in your time of mourning, now in your time of for the deceased, now in your demise, when you would hope that people would come and reverence and respect it, nada, nothing. And I felt that was so sad. But at the same time, you reap what you sow. It's coming back to you. Go
Do
ahead.
you know what you said? No, I got tickled when you said those that are full. Well,
That a
they
fool.
full.
Gonna be hungry.
because they're gonna be hungry. Now the
Uh-huh.
reason why they hungry, they can't eat no more because they full of fill in the blank.
And there you heard it from my bootleg sister. She told you to fill in the blank because you're full of the other.
That's right.
And at
Amen,
the end of the
amen.
day, you can't eat that.
No, you you can't eat that.
Ah,
No.
wait a minute. What was it? The help when she baked that pie?
Girl, you know I love that part. I loved it.
That was my favorite part of
That
the
was
movie.
my favorite part.
We
And she
eat every
ate it all up, and even had explicatives. All of that. Girl, I loved it. Yes, I did.
eat
Yes, I
every
did.
piece. Eat every piece.
Yes.
Listen, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be full of that, but not even food.
That's right.
Ah,
That's right.
listen,
Girl.
that's what
Yes,
you've been full of. That's what you're gonna eat.
that's
And
what you gonna eat.
and you're going to be hungry. You're going to be naked. You're going to be deprived. You're going to be poor in spirit. You're going to be poor in emotion. And so this is where I start telling people, listen, while y'all out here chasing this stuff, chasing these dreams, wanting to be like the Joneses, you don't know what kind of dastardly stuff is going on up in the house of the Joneses. And at the end of the day, just like the book of Revelations, you think you're rich, but you're poor. You think you're
Mhm.
clothed, but you're naked. And you got all of this illusion that you've created for yourself, and none of it is true. None of it's reality. And so at the end of the day, you are actually more wretched and you're poor than the people that you've been putting down and trying to
Mhm.
hold them down to make them be even more poor. And it's a sad dilemma. It really is. Sheila
It-
said Jesus reminds us that our soul attitude is more important than material wealth. And that is so true.
That's
Again,
true. Because
right,
that stuff that you full of is toxic. It's
toxic.
toxic.
That's why you're meant to excrete it from your body and to go into the draft so that it can go into never land, because at this point there's nothing, there's no goodness, there's no health, there's no more nutrition that can be drawn from it. Everything that can be drawn from it that's good is gone, and the only thing you have left is fecal material. And so if your life is just full of fecal material types of things where you think, oh my God, I got this and I got that, but at the end of the day, all you got left is fecal material, you're a sad person. You're a sad person. And right relationship with God is paramount, and not just with God, but with each other as well. And thank you, Sheila, because that brings us back to that point of he calls them by name. Who do you actually have relationship with? And I'm going to keep driving that point again. If your 12 only looks like you, something is wrong.
Mhm.
If
I
your
agree.
12 only looks like you, if you've not gone outside the boundaries of your little limited world to embrace some other people into your world and actually have real relationship, something's wrong with you. But this is the fullness of God's love toward us. He said, I want your joy to be full. The more people that you have in your life from all these different varieties, it's almost like different varieties of flowers are they're appealing to the eye. Different varieties of food bring different things to your palate. All of it so your taste buds can dance, so you can get more flavor. So yeah, it's the same with life and with people. When you have more variety and the diversity, it brings more to your life so that there's a richness and a fullness that you can't experience any other way. And I don't want everybody walking around, how are you today? Oh, blessed and highly favored. I want some folks that talk natural talk to me. I want some people that talk in talk that y'all say you shouldn't hear. I want to hear
Mhm.
everything in the fullness, because those friendships, each of them, even though they're very different and they're very varied, they bring a richness and some vitality and vim to my life that I can't get from other people that talk just like I talk every single day. And after a while, it does get monotonous.
Mhm.
it
That's
gets
right.
it gets on your nerves. It gets on your nerves. So I really want to continue to go back, and then the relationship. which Sheila says again, to be in right relationship with God and to be in right relationship with one another. I
That's
can't
right.
just talk about how good my relationship with God is and I'm dogging you out every day, Anita.
That's right. That's right. That is so true.
Woe unto men that speak well of you. Now he's saying this because he's identifying that they're hypocrites.
Yeah.
There's some folk that gonna act like, oh, we love you so much. He said, woe unto you when all them speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets.
Yeah.
Jesus is so good with the shade, man. I love it. I mean, he can drop some shade. It'll be like, yeah, yeah. And it'll be like, yeah, yeah. Because at the end of the day, he's really saying your fathers are false prophets.
Hmm. That's right. That's right.
Ah, and I think we have to really pay attention to that because the reality of it, sometimes in the status quo world, when you start speaking it like it tis, folks are not going to speak well of you. And go ahead, Neat.
Girl, what I was thinking was you can
Yeah.
kind of tell those people who are not really in your corner
Uh-huh.
because Jesus know now I know where y'all coming from because people who are full of it, that's why their nose is in the air because they always smelling it.
And once again, you've heard it here on Word on Fire from my bootleg sister.
Shoot.
If you didn't know, now you know. Because she broke that thing down for you. The reality again, man, Jesus is like, listen, so many people want people to speak well. They want to be accepted. And sometimes they won't speak because they want to be accepted. They won't tell the truth because they want to be accepted. They talk a certain way because they want to be accepted. They don't do certain things and don't go certain places, not because they think anything's wrong with it. They want to be accepted. All of that for men to speak well of you. And I think we need to pay attention to why is it so important to us for people to speak well of us. Because I've learned over time, man, you can do everything under the sun and you can do your best and live your best and people are still going to speak ill of you. If that's what, and I also had to learn this, and I think I shared this the other day. I had to learn when they're speaking ill, it's because it's a reflection of themselves. It's not them speaking about me. They're speaking ill because that ill is a reflection of themselves. And so I can walk away free and clear in my spirit. Hey, Sheila said, "A to the man." I can walk away free in my spirit because at the end of the day, that ill that they're speaking is coming from what's inside of them. I don't have to take that on, so I don't have to worry about people whether or not they speak well of me, because as Jesus said, when they start doing that, you can almost guarantee that they're coming from a place of insincerity and they coming from the place of their fathers, which was a false prophet. So, he breaks that thing down. Don't get confused. Don't get disillusioned. Don't get tore up. Just keep it rolling. But I say unto you which hear me, love your enemies. Now, this is where I start loving it, because I mean, this is really where the rubber meets the road. Love your enemies. Do good to them which hate you. Bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you. Because it does give you the ability, even as Jesus was hanging on the cross, and he's able to say, Father, I want you to forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing. And I recognize that a lot of times the ignorance that people come at with me with, the things that they want to say out of that ignorance or out of their anger or whatever it is, I don't have to embrace that. I can genuinely have a heart of compassion for them because they're the ones that are deluded. Not to say that, listen, I listen to people. If somebody comes to me and says, Regina, you need to check da 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 da, I'm gonna pay attention to it. But then there's some, we're talking about people that are just, they're in a whole nother attitude. And as he says, hate. There are people that hate you. And I'm going to use it from the standpoint, whether it's jealousy that they have towards you, whether it's whatever, that spirit is almost like a spirit of hatred that comes on them, where you ain't did nothing to them, but they just, all you gotta do is say your name and they just go, they come unglued. They just can't take I started to say like our president and Obama, but it just something about it. It just makes you come unglued, whether there's a legitimate reason to come unglued or not. Love goes beyond reciprocal, transactional behavior. We love because our Father is love and we are his children. Good word, Sheila. Good word. Nita, anything you want to jump in there?
Well, right. All I want to say right now is that's why I miss Sheila, because see, I was gonna tap out on this subject because now I can be nice to you. The Bible said love.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm squirming for a reason. I still need prayer. Yeah.
My sister, my dear blessed sister, you do not walk alone.
Pray for me. Pray for me. Mm. I can deal with you, and I'll be nice. But the Bible said love.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes. It's in
pray
there.
for your
We
sister.
bring
Pray
it. We
for
bring it. It's in there. It's in there. It's in all of us. I think that we have to work through to it. It may be a matter of drilling down to the deep, but at the very core, because the center of our being, our soul existence is God, and God is love. And so that's my thing. Sometimes we got to drill down and uncover all of the other stuff that has buried the God in us. But God is in you. And God is in every last one of us. And that's why I say and so I'm cool with that. Pray for you, pray for me, pray for one another, pray for each other, because at the end of the day, there are things and circumstances that come in our lives to challenge us, to make us dig down and drill to the God in us. But the thing that I bring as a gospel of good news and a gospel of comfort, God is in there.
yes.
God is in there. God is in you. God is in me. And because God is love, if we dig down and uncover, get all the rest of the garbage and the fecal material out of the way, if we keep digging deep enough and raw enough and true enough, we'll get to the God in us. And that God
Now
in us is love.
that's what I can say when I can tell people they don't understand, because when I find myself actually responding to someone that I really did not want to respond to, I
Uh-huh.
know that was God. So that
See,
lets me know, oh, he's still working even in me, even though, you
absolutely.
know. So those are some things that you can even measure yourself. And I'll be like, Lord, I thank you. You still gave me another chance, because I wasn't trying to really deal with sister so and so or brother so and so, but you still found a way to bring us together for me to work that out. So that's good.
I agree. And I think depending on different areas, we each have our area of opportunity where we have to drill down a little deeper. Got to drill just a little deeper. Uh
Yeah,
and I don't think any of us have arrived at that place of perfection where we can say, "Oh, I'm just 100." No, 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 no. There's going to be something in your world, something in your environment that challenges you to dig down and drill a little deeper until you find the God in you. So I appreciate your honesty, because really what you bring to the table is some freedom for others that are feeling like, man, I can't do that. I'm not there. Because listen at them. Listen, the reality of it is we still working through too.
that's right.
We're still going through too. So nobody's at that place of perfection, but we know where we're headed. We know
That's
where
right.
we're headed to. He says that those that smite thee, give to those that ask, and then don't ask again. What you would that men would do unto you, do you to them likewise. And I think
Right.
that's where we've got to really let the rubber meet the road. And I'm gonna close out with that. For if you love them which love you, what sinners do that? But if you understand that if you lend to them, if you love your enemies, do good and lend, hoping for nothing again, not to get something. Sheila touched on that as far as the reciprocal. If you do everything you do because you want tit for tat, give me back, that's not love.
That's right. That's right.
If you're in a relationship that's tit for tat, give me back, that's not love.
That's
I brought
right.
you some some flowers. What did you get me? And I mean, I've literally seen relationships like this where it's like the only and so people have to come to a place of honesty. I don't really love you. I'm just doing stuff for you in expectation of what you're gonna bring me back.
That's right.
That's not love.
No, no. And you're gonna be highly disappointed.
Highly disappointed, highly disappointed. And I think sometimes we need to ask and really drill down within ourselves. Why did I do it?
Mm.
Did I
Mm.
do it to get something back?
Mhm,
Did I
mhm.
do it because of whatever? Why did I do it? And I think when we get to the purity of our own motives, we'll understand when you do love and you do good and you do lend, you don't do it to get something back.
That's right.
So then, as we end, and we're going to close with this: judge not, and you won't be judged. Condemn not, and you won't be condemned. Forgive, and you shall be forgiven. Now, he goes through all of that. Then he closes out with this: give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken
Yeah.
together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. What's in my bosom? My heart.
Mhm.
With the same measure that ye meet, it shall be measured unto you again. And I'm gonna let you have final say. And I think we're down to the hour here. We want to appreciate everybody, but go ahead and have your final say, and we'll get ready to close it out.
My final say, you're gonna help me because it just brought back. Well, we go deep. We to go deep. Yes, we go deep down in my
Come on.
heart. I got the love. I got the love of Jesus. I got the love of Jesus. I got the love of Jesus. Where is it? Deep down in
In
my
my
heart.
heart. And you heard it here. You heard it right here. Word on fire. The rebel is dying out there. The rebel is dying. You heard it right here on Word on Fire. Listen, I want to appreciate everybody that has joined us on today. The complete sayings of Jesus. I hope this is helping you, and I hope you are enjoying yourself as we cover the word section by section. As I always like to say when I get ready to leave, we'll see you next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat station. In the meantime, I want you to have peace for your journey.
Amen.